Hello, everybody in the You Are Worthy Network. It's great to be with you again. I hope each one of you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you got to spend it with people you love and are encouraged to be around. I hope you got to do whatever you wanted to do. If that was turkey and dressing, so be it. If that was Japanese steakhouse, like me, that's cool too. Whatever you wanted to do, it's not about the food, it's not about the tradition or non tradition, it's about being grateful, which, my opinion, that's supposed to be an everyday thing. But I'm always grateful for the reminder of one day that we all come together to do it. So I hope you had a fabulous Thanksgiving. I know Tuesday's almost already to an end work wise. So I know you're already back into the thralls of deadlines and commitments and to do list, but I'm grateful to be with you and to remind you, because it's been a few days, that you are worthy of love, respect, and success, and your story's not over by a long shot. So just wanted to tell you all that. All right. Well, I'm excited to tell you about our guest, Megan. I'm going to read her bio verbatim, like I always do. Megan Huber is a retention strategist, onboarding expert, and founder of Structured Freedom Incorporated. She works with 7 to 8 figure coaching, education, and service based businesses to increase retention and optimize client lifetime value so they can spend less on acquisition and more on keeping the clients that they already have. With over a decade of experience, Megan specializes in building client onboarding and success systems that turn one time buyers into long term partners. Her philosophy is simple: when you put clients first and create systems that actually serve them, profits follow naturally. I've got a lot I could say just on those last couple sentences, but I will restrain myself and we'll dig into that in a minute. But Megan, it's so good to have you with us. Welcome to the network.
Thank you so much, Steve, for the wonderful introduction. And yeah, just really excited to be here and have this conversation about worthiness and, sharing a little bit about my story and journey. And yeah, let's just see where it goes.
Absolutely. Let's see what happens. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What part of the world are you coming from?
Well, I think we're in the same state. We're both in Tennessee. So I am right outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a new Tennessean. For the first time in my life, I'm 43 years old, and it's the first time I've ever lived in Tennessee. We moved here in July of 2025. So as of today, that's a little less than 6 months. Before that, we were in Florida for 9 years. Before that, I was in California for just a year and a half. And then I did most of my years in North Carolina in the Chapel Hill area, which is where I'm from. So it's me, my husband, and we have one daughter who is 15 years old. She's a high school freshman.
Well, welcome to the great state of Tennessee. When when Megan and I were getting to know each other a little bit, it was definitely small world syndrome, as where she lives is like 2 miles away from where I went to high school. And
Yeah.
showing my age, Nashville is very I guess you could say contemporary now. Definitely got some eclectic pieces to it. Wasn't quite like that when I was there. It was more country. It was more rural, which there's still that component to it in places. But yeah, it's like a lot of places. It's changed a whole lot. And I've been gone from the Nashville area for, gosh, it'll be 13 years in 2026. So I do get back there a few times a year. And so, I understand, but welcome to Tennessee. Do you like Tennessee so far?
I love it. I love it. My brother has lived here for quite a few years. So we had visited here a bit over the last probably 5 to 6 years. It's somewhat similar to North Carolina. I mean, it certainly has all four seasons, has a very similar climate. I love it here. And I hear what you're saying about the eclecticness. I love all the coffee shops. The coffee shops, I mean, you could go to a new coffee shop every single day of the year, 365 days, and probably not go to all of them. And they're all it's probably my most favorite thing.
It's I definitely got to be careful not to go down this rabbit hole with my old hometown, but one of the coffee shops that you're probably referring to that I won't name it by name is downtown, not far from where you live, and I actually used to work in that building off Main Street before it was a coffee shop. So yes, I get what you're saying about the
Yeah.
eclectic coffee shops for sure.
Oh yeah. You'll have to tell me offline and I'll let you know if I've been or not.
Right, right. And I've not had coffee in that actual shop, so I don't know, but I do know what you speak of for sure.
Yeah.
So, what do you and your husband and your daughter like to do for fun?
That's a great question. One of the things that really drew me especially to Tennessee, I was kind of like the leader in that in the family of moving from Florida to Tennessee. One of the things that I was really looking for was more adventure because that's one of the things that we love to do. We love to explore new places. And I felt like we had done everything there was to do in Florida. I was getting really kind of bored of that. And when you move to a new place, every single thing is new to you. Going to a new coffee shop that you've not been before, that's a new adventure. It's a new experience. Or finding a new place to go on a hike. There's so much of that around this area too. So that's one of the things that we really love to do together is let's go find a new hike we could go on. Let's find a new walk. Let's find a new restaurant. Let's find a new waterfall that we could go see. There's so many of those around. I mean, you have to drive like an hour or so, but there's waterfalls all over the place. So we love to do that. My husband is a really good cook. He loves to be in the kitchen. I don't as much, but something that we are starting to do more of, and kind of doing this a little bit more with my daughter too, is baking on the weekends. And one of my favorite things to bake is banana bread. So we love to do things like that. And it's just the three of us. We only have one daughter. And when you have an only child, you are the parent, but you're also the built in friend. I mean, I don't parent like I'm a friend, but you are their friend. You are who they have. And I think oftentimes when you are the parent of an only child, the entire time she's been alive, she's gone everywhere with us. So if we go to a fancy restaurant, she came with us. If we go on a trip, she comes with us. So we very much have done everything together as a family unit, no matter what that is. And so I think just really being together, being in our home, baking, decorating the Christmas tree, going on weekend adventures like locally together, driving around, things like that are just really fun for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. That definitely lends itself for potentially being a much tighter family unit for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny. It triggered a thought of me yesterday. Like I've got three and one's out of the house. And I'll keep it short, but I went from potentially buying lunch for three people yesterday, and one of them wasn't even my wife, long story, to I don't even know how it happened. I'm buying lunch for six.
Mm,
And I'm like, how did I double my bill? Which
yeah.
eating out's not cheap these days. So you got that working for you that there's just three of you on that front.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I didn't grow up as an only child. I had one brother. And when I think back to what was it like when we grew up, we also did a lot of things together. I didn't have parents that would leave and go on a trip and leave us at home. We went, we did
Yeah.
vacations together. My parents never like did their own thing, but my brother played sports. I played sports. There was a 4-year age difference between us, and we were playing sports a lot. And so my dad would go with my brother, my mom would go with me. And so I think when you have more than one child, especially if your children are all involved with extracurricular activities, you're kind of split all the time, especially on the weekends. Mom's going one direction, dad's going another direction. And by the time they get their license, like everybody's going in a completely different direction. And so I do think when you are a parent of an only child, there is a very special, sacred thing about the family unit because you are not going in separate directions. You're all going in the same direction all the time because everything is really built around not necessarily just that child, but everything really is just built around the family unit. And you're not required to go in separate directions like if you have more than one child. So it's a unique family experience, I think.
That is a really good perspective. And I know you know this, that'll because I don't think your daughter's driving quite yet, right?
No.
That will change it some.
Oh yeah,
Just
for sure.
get ready for that.
Yeah. I've got
But
a
yeah,
little less than a year left.
yeah, I understand. My youngest gets his permit here in a couple months, so I totally get it. So, let's transition a little bit. You're doing fascinating work, and I know a little bit about it because we've talked. But in the entrepreneur space, you didn't start off with what you're doing now, right? How did you get your feet wet?
I did not. So in my 20s, my first career was being a high school teacher. And I actually taught at the high school I graduated from in a very small town in North Carolina. And Sean and uh, I got pregnant with Brighton while I was teaching. I was 27 years old. And by the time she came along, I was 28. And I decided, you know what? I'm not going to go back to the classroom. And I never like had this big dream and vision of being a mom in the first place. So when you don't really have like this big dream and vision of being a mom, you also don't have a dream and vision of being a stay-at-home mom. And so it was actually very uncharacteristic for me to come home not just to, but to be mom. And when I made the decision, I wasn't making the decision from the place of I want to be a stay-at-home mom. Part of that decision was being made because I was thinking, do I really want to send my kid to daycare from, when I was a teacher, I got to the school building before 7 a.m. I was super involved with extracurriculars. I was a tennis coach. I was a football athletic trainer. I was a graduation project coordinator. I was the advisor to multiple student clubs. So I wasn't leaving the school building until the sun went down. And the janitors are telling you, you got to go because we're going to lock the building. So in my mind, I was thinking, how on earth am I going to drop my child off at 6:30 in the morning and not pick her up until 6 or 6:30 in the evening? And is there even a daycare that is going to let you keep their child for 12 hours a day? And so a lot of that was running through my mind. And I think there was a part of me that believed I couldn't do both really well. And I decided for that reason, nobody else is going to raise my kid but me. I decided to come home. Now, it was very uncharacteristic because of all the things that I listed I was involved with. I love to create, I love to lead, I love to build, I love to innovate. I like to be involved with things. And so when you come home and our daughter slept all the time. I mean, I don't know how everybody's kid is, but babies sleep a lot. And so she was sleeping 16 hours out of the day when she was really little. And it drove me crazy because I'm just in the house doing nothing except making sure my child stays alive. They can't talk to you, they can't do anything. And my husband recommended that I do something for myself. And he recommended I go get a coaching certification, not for me to start a coaching business, but for me to work on my own personal development. So I did the coaching certification program. And in that process, I thought, wow, like this was made for me. It's so similar to the way that you teach high school kids, because my approach to teaching was not just stand up in front of the room and talk at people. When you're working with high school kids, like emotions are all over the place. They need mentorship and they need guidance and they need coaching and they need facilitation. And they need to kind of feel like, yeah, you're the authority, but they're also your friend. And oh, by the way, you've got to teach them. And so coaching for me was this beautiful combination of all those things and all those skills that I was already using in the classroom. And I decided after like 2 weeks after it ended, I was set up to start a business, a coaching business. That was in 2011. And I got started I would it was all local. I would go to networking events. I found out really quick the only people making money at networking events are the people speaking at the front of the room. So then I would like get myself on these little local speaking tours, and I would go speak all over the state of North Carolina to whoever would listen to me, and built my coaching business that way. So I was coaching a lot of brick and mortar businesses because those are the people going to local networking um, groups and meetings. And it was a lot of, you know, the things that I'm really good at and kind of how my brain is wired. It's very wired. I like order. I like structure. I like sequences. I like to look at a lot of information, and I can look at a lot of information and figure out where are the gaps. What's the real problem, not the problem you think it is. And you're kind of able to see all the blind spots in a business and in someone's decision making that they can't see for themselves. And so that's essentially what I was doing with brick and mortar business owners. And then that kind of morphed into um, starting to do a little bit more in the online world, probably in 2013. And then in 2013, I got connected to someone who became a mentor of mine. And I helped her build this massive coaching program and certification program. And at the end of creating it and launching it to the world, she offered me a job. Now, I had my own coaching business at the time that was doing okay. It wasn't doing horrible, wasn't doing great either. And I decided to leave my business in early 2014. And I worked for a very, very large scale coaching company where I was a director of client experience. And my job was to create all the curriculum for all of her programs, operationally run the programs. And then I was also very client facing. And I left there at the end of 2016. That's what actually took us to California. When I mentioned we lived in California for a year and a half, it
Mm-hmm.
was because of that job. And then when I left, I had built a brand, kind of a personal brand for myself in that little corner of the coaching world. And so I became known for what I helped her build. And she worked with all of her clients were coaches. And so naturally, when I exited that and I rebooted my own business again, my business became coaching coaches on how to get clients and make more money in their business. Um, then I did all the big group coaching programs. I did the masterminds myself, shut all that down in 2022. And that is when I pivoted to a consulting model, working with larger scale coaching, education companies, service based businesses on keeping their clients longer, happier, staying, and paying. So that's what has led to the consulting that you were mentioning at the very beginning.
Well, so those first couple of years, while you were testing the waters and had your own coaching program, etc., um, that probably worked out great, right? Because you did get to be home in your
Mhm.
daughter's early years, and I assume your husband was working somewhere, or was he an entrepreneur also?
He was a personal trainer working 6 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day.
Oh, we okay.
Yep.
That
So I
that's a
would take
lot.
her everywhere with me. I took her to all those networking events, not all of them, but she went to a lot of them. I would just take her everywhere I went. And then slowly I had a babysitter that I met when she was 12 years old, not 12 years old, 12 months old, 12 weeks old. She was 12 weeks old. And so I would start, like 3 hours a day, 2 days a week. And then I would do 3 days a week, 3 hours a day. And
Hmm.
it took me about 4 years to where I finally got to a point where she was in preschool at a local church 5 days a week, half a day. And then 2 days a week, somebody was picking her up. And so I would have like 2 full days out of the week and then 3 half days. But I didn't do that quickly. I mean, that was like a 4 year progression. And then by the time we moved to California, she was four. And that full year we were in California, we had her in like full day. She was basically in like pre kindergarten from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 days a week. So it wasn't until 2015 that I had her in something full time as a 4.5 to like 5.5 year old.
Okay. It's fascinating. Um, when I was reading your bio there at the end, it says your philosophy is simple. When you put clients first and create systems that actually serve them, profits flow naturally. That does sound simple, but I'm assuming, like a lot of things that sound simple, something has got convoluted along the way. So give us a little insight to really what you do. Let's say I'm an executive and I'm losing revenue specifically, not necessarily because of lack of sales. Say sales are fine. Could be better. Sales could always be better, right? But I'm losing revenue because of client retention. Is that what you do? Is you get in there and find out why that
Mhm.
client retention is suddenly dropping significantly?
Yes. So I'll give an example. I spoke with a gentleman yesterday, service-based industry, so not in coaching and education. They're actually a brokerage for health insurance. And they were experiencing this at a certain point in the client journey after the client, the person had become a client. So the sale had been made. And around like 30 to 45 days into the engagement, clients were getting like really hitting a boiling point of frustration and anger. And so I, throughout our conversation, was asking him a series of questions so that I could start to identify where I thought the gaps were and what was actually leading to clients being so disgruntled 30 to 45 days into the partnership. And that's just one example of many where, whether it's a coaching program, an education program, a service based business, your clients typically hit a point of frustration or anger or just disengagement. If you pay attention to it, it actually happens very, very soon in the engagement, it happens really soon in the partnership. Could be a few weeks in, could be a month and a half, 2 months in. The most critical time of a partnership with a service provider and a customer, it is in the first 30, 60 to 90 days. That's what I refer to as onboarding. So when I say onboarding, I'm actually talking about the first 30, 60 to 90 days of a partnership with a customer. What a lot of people think onboarding is they think it's as soon as the sale is made, I've onboarded them. I was working with a client today and she said, "Oh my gosh, I thought onboarding was just the time between when they purchased and when the program actually starts."
Mhm.
And a lot of people think onboarding is just this one individual moment in time. It's a automated email that gets sent to the new customer, welcoming them and giving them access to everything they just purchased. Some people think onboarding is a group orientation call with all of the new customers. Some people think it's a series of automated emails that go out over the course of 7 to 14 days. And all those are not wrong. All those are part of onboarding, but keyword apart. Onboarding is an entire event that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It actually has 6 phases. And maybe you're wondering, like, why is she talking about onboarding so much? Because onboarding is the make or break to clients staying with you longer. Onboarding is the number one thing that will lead to retention and renewals in your product or service. So the way that you onboard someone is going to very largely, it's not 100%, but it's largely going to determine how long clients are actually going to stay with you when you do your onboarding right. And onboarding is a sequence. Remember, I said like one of my greatest skill sets is sequences. There's an order to it, there's a sequence to it. Part of it is community, part of it is communication, part of it is being proactive with reach outs, part of it is introducing them to the team, part of it is giving them what you delivered, part of it is getting them to their first significant win. So if I were going to tell everybody, like, how do you kind of gauge when my onboarding begins and ends? Onboarding begins on your sales call. It doesn't end until your client reaches their first significant result or milestone. And the way I describe that is, what's their first significant milestone or result? It's whatever you've got to get them. I got to get them here. I got to get them to this place so that the rest of the time that they're here, they can actually be successful. So, what's the thing? What's the place? What's the outcome I've got to get them to first so that they can be successful for the next 3 months, 6 months, year, 5 years, whatever that is. Your onboarding hasn't finished until you can get them to that point. Because if you can't ever get them to that point, you've lost them. Why would they stay? Why would they engage? Why would they ever buy from you again if you can't get them to the first significant result? Because if you can't get them there, they're probably not showing up. They're probably not engaging. They're not invested. They're not consuming. They're not taking action. They're not doing anything. So you have failed the client that early on because we didn't even get them to like the first place we need to get them to be successful.
So this is fascinating to me. So what percentage of your clientele would you say are service oriented businesses?
All of them.
All of them. Okay. So bear with me for a second because this is me going back in time quite a bit. I used to be in the service related industry about 30 years ago. Was it 30 years ago? Yeah, I guess it was. Um, and I had come up through the ranks and was a district manager over three districts in Tennessee and Kentucky. And what we provided wasn't probably anything close to what your clientels are providing. But I do want to kind of throw out an example. Like like a lot of businesses do, we wined and dined the potential client. You make your promises, show them what
Mm-hmm.
you can deliver. And then there is a reality, at least in the industry that I was in at that time, of it's kind of boring after that. And yes, there's the follow-up lunches occasionally, there's the follow-up phone calls, how's the service going? We provided personnel, okay? And so at the end of the day, a lot of what drove your success was how good that personnel was on their site.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you do the best you can, but it's kind of hit and miss. But is there any parallel between what I'm saying and what you do? Like, do you find do a lot of clients do they lose interest in their provider because they're not being wined and dined anymore? They're not getting the attention they once got. It's gotten quiet on the job site. They're not hearing from their vendor, or are we talking something much more complex?
That's part of it. That's an element of it. So one of the things that customers do not like is being told, this happens a lot. If they're told, "Hey, if you need anything or if any problem arises, just reach out to us. We're here to help." Okay, customers hate that because that's the most reactive way of handling a customer.
Yeah.
So you want to be proactive. And that's what I notice a lot in the service industry, coaching, education, and the insurance broker gentleman that I was speaking to, that was happening. So the sale is made, and then there's a certain period of time, it's about 2 weeks, where the communication was very proactive from the company to the customer. And then there's sort of like this lag time between 2 to 3 weeks into the engagement and when the customer would actually receive their health insurance cards. And because the gentleman I was speaking to, they're the broker. They're not the person printing out the cards and mailing the cards. That's a third party, and they have nothing to do with how speedy the third party is. They have nothing to do with the USPS that takes 2 weeks from the time it's shipped to actually get delivered to their customer. And so what's happening in the customer's mind when there's no communication, and the big win for the customer is we got our insurance cards. That's the big win. You got to get them to the moment of getting the insurance cards. But what's happening is the client is hitting a boiling point somewhere between like day 30 and 45 because the proactive communication has kind of really slowed down and I still don't have my cards in hand, right? So one of my suggestions to the gentleman was you have to extend the proactive communication all the way up until they get their cards. Because what's going on in the mind of the client when they don't hear anything, their alarm bells are going off psychologically. They start telling themselves stories that are not true. They feel like they're in this place of the unknown and darkness and like I don't know what's going on and it's uncertain. And even if this gentleman I was talking to, even if they have no clue when their customer is going to receive those cards, they still should have a schedule between day 14 and whenever the customer gets their cards where they're actually picking up the phone and calling them. Is it every 3 days? Is it every 5 days? But some sort of cadence. And you don't necessarily need to have any answers for them. You may not have anything to update them on. But the fact that you picked up the phone and called them and give them an opportunity to vent to you and give them an opportunity to share with you if they're frustrated and what they're frustrated about, like give them the opportunity to do it. Don't wait until the client is so irate that they have to pick up the phone and they have to call and they have to scream. Like, why are you waiting it? Why are you waiting to let it get to that point? Let's just be proactive. Let's create a schedule for that. So I think that's really similar. That's like one layer of what's going on is we go from being super proactive to then reactive, but we do it too soon before the onboarding period has kind of ended.
Yeah, it's a fascinating conversation because I hear you saying that the key part that I picked up on was extend that proactive communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I see both sides of it. Definitely makes sense what you're saying. Do the companies you work with, do they have the personnel to do that? Or are they putting out too many fires? Is it a slight tweak? Do they have the personnel to pull it off?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. And that's one of the
Mhm.
biggest problems. And part of the problem with that is that a lot of business owners naturally had a background in sales and marketing before they started a business, or that's their skill set, that's their expertise. You don't see a whole heck of a lot of entrepreneurs who had a customer service or client success background.
Mm.
And so they don't really think about it, not the way I do. Some of them do, but even when a client hires me, I don't always experience this, but I would say more than half, it's definitely more than half of the clients that hire me, I still have to almost convince them once I'm already on board of how important this part of the business is. And look, there's only three parts of a business. There's client acquisition, there's client retention, and there's client ascension. Most business owners are only focusing on the first third of the business and they're ignoring the other two-thirds of the business. I actually cover the other two-thirds of the business. Most people have the first third down pat with marketing and sales, but that's the sexy part of the business. That is the instant gratification part of a business. It is the immediate ROI of the business. That's where you and your team are getting all of your dopamine hits from every single day, multiple times a day. The other two-thirds of the business, you don't get instant gratification. You do not see an instant result. You do not see instant ROI. And there's very few dopamine hits. So when we look at it from that perspective psychologically, I understand why business owners want to put all their focus, attention, team, money, and resources on client acquisition because it's constantly giving you the chemical reaction that you want in your brain all day long. What I focus on doesn't. So if they're going to cut anybody, that's one of the first places they want to cut is, that department is called client success. That's the first place they want to make cuts or not make hires.
That is fascinating to me. Um, the company I was referring to, they were private when I started with them, and then there was a big push to go public. And instead of showing the investors that they could grow internally and hang on to what they have, they kept trying to cut expenses and buying other small companies. And even then, in my late 20s, I was like, why don't we just take care of what we have?
Hmm.
And anyway, so by the time they call you, I assume they're bleeding pretty significantly.
It kind of depends. I mean, some of them are not. I think a lot of them don't recognize how big the problem actually is. They think it's going to be some tiny, small little fix, and it's not. And so a lot of them, I think, kind of get it like a rude awakening of what actually, like how many gaps there really are and what it's going to require to close those gaps. But to your point earlier of like, do they actually have the manpower? That's part of the problem. Part of the problem is they don't have that many people on that part of the team and they're already stretched thin.
Yeah.
So to have someone like me come in and give you like a list of things that you now have to implement. So what I mean, to be honest with you, what they prefer is that me and my team come in and implement what we think needs to be implemented for them and then train their team to be able to carry that out ongoing. Because for me to come in as a consultant and just say like, "Hey, go do these 18 things," it's going to sit on a shelf for 6 to 9 months before anybody on the team gets to that, which, defeats the entire purpose. So what they prefer is you and your team come in and you actually implement it, build it out, like basically build it out for them.
Yeah, I mean, the consequences could be dire, right? I mean, when you're having to lay off employees, they could already be stretched thin as it is, and then you lose a major client, and that revenue loss, you can't support, a couple of staff positions depending on how big the company it is.
Yeah.
They've got to stop the bleeding at some point for sure. Um,
Hmm.
what is it? What one or two things specifically that just fire you up about helping XYZ company turn it around?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the thing that really fires me up is honesty and integrity because, I've largely spent most of my time in the coaching and online education space. And I've also been behind the scenes of a lot of very large scale companies. And I know what they're saying in their marketing message. I know what they're saying to someone on a sales call. And then I know what they're delivering to the client. And let's take that a step further. I know how they're treating their team and what's being said front facing to the marketplace to get the people to come in the door, to get the people to say yes to the offer is incongruent with what is actually being delivered. And that's where I've
Mm.
always had a really big issue with the coaching and online education space, because again, that's largely where I've grown up as an entrepreneur. So I can speak, the most intelligently about that industry. But you see it as look, we're all consumers here. All of us are buying things all the time and having our own experience. Um, I just wrote about an experience I had from a professional perspective. So I wasn't like naming the company or the person or anything like that. It was a very educational post, but it was about an experience that I had with a horse trainer for our daughter. Our daughter is a rider. And there's just so many inconsistencies between what I was told I was getting, the way I was brought in. I'm just talking across the board, any company. And then what's actually delivered and how the customer is taken care of. And to take that one step further, and I can give a really good example, is nobody, like somebody on the team, at least one human being, has to wake up every single day and eat, sleep, drink, and breathe being the voice of the customer. And so most companies think they are client centric and they are so far from being client centric. They are doing and they are only focused on what's going to make me more money, not how can I better serve my client and give my client an incredible experience, which what they're not putting together is that if I would do that, I would eventually make more money. But it's
Mm,
a longer term play. So again, if we go back to, it's just faster to focus on front end sales. You're just going to see more money come through that way. Doesn't mean you're keeping that money though. And it doesn't mean that you're profiting. Because if your clients are leaving out the back door and not coming back, you're actually not ever reaching profit. It's just a longer term play, and it takes longer for us to focus on retention, renewals, reactivations, upsells, cross sells, all those things. So I think that is what like really lights me on fire. And the founder that I am probably the most obsessed with and study is Jesse Cole, who is the founder of the Savannah Bananas. Every business owner should read his book called Fans First. And his entire approach, every single decision that is made at that entire organization is through their fans first philosophy. They have a fans first way. The fans first way is their philosophy of how we do business. Well, one of the examples is any ticket that you could possibly buy is only $40. It doesn't matter what seat you're in, it's $40. Guess what? You
nice.
don't have to pay taxes on merchandise that you buy. Guess what? That $40 ticket gets you all you can eat and all you can drink. So what they looked at is what is every single friction point and every single complaint that a regular baseball fan has about regular baseball. And they did the opposite. So if the fan is complaining, oh my gosh, we just spent $200 for tickets and now I spent $300 just to feed my 4 kids a pretzel and a drink and an ice cream. We all know that.
$60 for parking.
$60 for parking. They don't charge for parking. Like they don't charge for any of that. And everybody told him he's absolutely crazy. But he's like, yeah, but the way everybody else is doing it is for their own financial benefit, not for the actual fan. And so you could sit here and say, well, he's losing so much money. He's leaving so much money on the table. But at the end of the day, he's going to end up lasting longer than everybody. He's going to end up making more money, but he may not see that in the beginning. It may take him 10 years or 15 years before he sees like big, big money. I have no idea. But that's the fans first way. That's like the integrity and the honesty of deliver what you sold, right? Like he's saying out here to the marketing, we're fans first, fans first, fans first. Well, you better believe they're fans first once you buy that ticket.
I probably shouldn't go here, but I am. Makes me wonder if Amy Adams has read that book. You know who I'm referring to?
I don't think so.
Amy Adams is the owner of the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole rabbit trail right there.
I'll go dive down that rabbit trail.
Especially with the new stadium being built with the product they're putting on the field. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so it's clear that you love what you're doing. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
So I know you can't necessarily predict the future, but is this something you see yourself doing for another 15, 20 years?
Yeah, it's hard to predict the future that far in advance for me because
Hmm.
I'm not a very big visionary in that regard. So I have more vision with what my expertise is, and optimizing what somebody has already built. That's where my vision really kicks in. But to see like super far down the road, I don't really have that type of vision. But I've been talking about this message for the last 4 years. And to be very frank, it has taken 4 years and I'm still not there yet of shouting this message from the rooftops to finally get people to actually pay attention to it because it is not a common message. It is not the message that people really want to hear. Most companies don't even realize that they have this problem in their business. And so if there's a lack of awareness that you even have the problem, you're not looking for this solution. So a lot of people are not looking for this solution. So it requires a great deal of education. Now, I think what is happening just in our world is that businesses need the customer way more than the customer needs the business in today's economy and in today's
Mm-hmm.
world. And businesses like kind of don't have much of a leg to stand on anymore. I think like the last standing big differentiator, it can't be cost anymore. It can't be convenience anymore. Like, what do we have left as a brand differentiator? It's client experience, it's customer service, it's this fans first philosophy. I think that is the number one way to stand out. Like, look at Jesse Cole and the Savannah Bananas. How's he been able to have like the exponential growth that he has had in such a short period of time? It's because he's putting the customer first. That's his big differentiator. That's it. That's the biggest differentiator. Like, what other differentiator does he have? He's putting the fan first, which means every decision he's making, it's about how do we serve the fans and give the fans what they actually want, not what we actually want. That's the only thing he's doing different. It's still baseball. It's still
Yeah.
at stadiums. Like, they're still serving food. Like, they're still doing all the same things. What did he do different? He just served his fans differently.
Value,
Mhm.
customer first. Okay, so you've experienced great success in everything you've touched, especially the last several years. I mean, I know there's ups and downs, especially in the entrepreneur world. There's
Oh,
always
yeah.
ups and downs. But was there a significant time in your life that you can recall when you didn't feel worthy of the success that you have now?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this question, and my response has nothing to do with business. So, I think if any of us and all of us are being honest, I think we feel unworthy in business and in our careers or financially at every single next level that we get to, right? Because it's kind of like you kind of have to overcome that hurdle to even like rise to whatever the next level is. So, I was really thinking back to like, when was the first like very, very significant time that I was making decisions in my life based on like probably not really feeling worthy. And I don't, I, I'm only seeing this looking back. So it's not like I was consciously thinking like, wow, I am not worthy of this. Let me make this decision. That's not what was going through my brain at this time. So as I mentioned, my brother and I both played sports and we were both competitive athletes. I was a tennis player and my brother was a baseball player. My brother is 4 years younger than me. So when my brother was 6 and I was 10, that's really when his whole like baseball, we'll just call it a career, even at that early age, started. My brother ended up playing professionally. And a lot of people who played professional sports, that's not for all of them, but for the majority of them, that starts at a very young age and they are groomed to become that. And I lived in that, so I know how that works. So that starts at like 5 or 6 years old. So he was groomed to be this professional baseball player. That was the goal from the age of 6. And when I was in high school, so my brother would have been in middle school. Um, and we're from a really small town. So when you're really good at a sport or anything in a really small town, everybody knows who you are. And then if you're like really, really good, like everybody in the state knows who you are. And that was him. And at a very young age. So I was a competitive tennis player and I was number one seed on the high school tennis team from the time I was a freshman. A lot of people didn't like that because there were seniors who I was beating.
Oh, yeah.
And I made a decision somewhere my junior year, probably, that I was basically going to hang it up with tennis. I was going to go to college, do my thing. And in my mind, the way that I justified it was I need to be available for my brother's career. That's going so well. Like, I didn't want to miss anything that was happening because when I was in college, he was in high school. And I went to a lot of things of his in high school because he was breaking every record known to mankind
Mm.
in baseball in the state of North Carolina and at the school. And so you want to be a part of that. But I literally stopped playing tennis. Now, when I became a teacher, I was like the women's tennis coach, blah, 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 whatever. But I was not actively playing tennis. I wasn't pursuing it. I didn't try to go to college for it. Had I pursued it, I was a great athlete. I could have gone to college. Now, my brother went to a D1 school. I would not have been able to go to a D1 school. I could have gone to D2, D3. But when I have really reflected on a lot of the decisions that I made at that kind of point in my life, I do kind of remember thinking and feeling that my brother's career was more important than anything I wanted to pursue because he was so good. And so it's like, well, you're so good at this. And our family unit seems to be like, it's all about this. And not from the place of like, oh, they support you more, or oh, they love you more, or oh, like it wasn't like that. And nobody talked me into it. Nobody suggested it to me at all. I just very much came up with that on my own. But as an adult, reflecting back on that, I stopped. It was right around that time, too, in my life where I just stopped like pursuing certain things and I just sort of let them die.
Mhm.
And I would make up reasons and excuses as to why I was doing that. And I think a lot of that was unworthiness. You're more worthy and your career is more worthy of time, attention, money, because, that's not cheap to like raise a kid
Mhm.
like that. It's very expensive. Um, so it's like, well, I'll just sit over here and make it easier on everybody. And that's what I thought in my mind. Like, I will just make it easier on everybody. So everybody's money, focus, resources, everything can just be attention, could be here. I'm hyper independent. I've been an easy child. You don't have to worry about me. Like, I can figure it out. I can handle it. Like, pay for me to go to college. And that's what I did. And then I supported my brother's career. And I came home a lot from college to see him. And I went all over the place watching him play in college. And I kind of stopped following after that. Um, but I think that was probably my most pivotal time where unworthiness kind of sent me down a path that's been a fine, amazing path. And I think I went down the path I did because of unworthiness.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. It sounds like, if I hear you right, that was a challenging time, needless to say. Probably a lot of introspective reflection going on there. But it sounds like that time also coming on the other side of it catapulted you to drive you to what you're doing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you being vulnerable about that. Um, so tell folks where they can learn more about you. I know you're all over social media, but give us a couple spots where they can find you, and we'll include it in the description notes as well.
Yeah. So if you love listening to podcasts, I have a podcast called Built to Last. It's been on a little bit of a pause for the last 2 months, but there's 250 episodes over there. So that's a great resource. And then I'll be kicking that back off in January of 2026 as we head into that season. And the other really great place is on Facebook. You can find me at Megan J. Huber on Facebook.
Love it. I don't even think I knew about the podcast. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wonderful. 250 episodes already. Yes, you've been doing that for a minute.
I think 4 years. I think I've had that show for 4 years. And then just a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a break in the fall, and then I'll pick it back up in January.
No, I love that. Love it. So, Megan, why don't you leave us some words of wisdom from you? In any area of life you want to give it, we'll take it. The world needs more
Oh
encouragement and
gosh,
wisdom.
anything in the world, any topic. Hmm.
Well, how about just how about growth and development?
Okay. So from my perspective, I think that every single one of us, for the most part, let's just say like 99.9% of the world, I think that we hold a lot inside of ourselves that we desire to do, feel called to do, long to do, have a vision to create or lead or build. And it's things that we can think in our mind, and maybe you even see it. Like you can see it in your head through pictures, or you can see yourself doing it. Like The mind works in picture, sounds, and feelings, right? So I think that we sense all of that in our minds, but we don't actually unleash it. We don't actually go build the thing, do the thing, lead the thing, start the thing. And then as you get older, and like I said, I'm in my 40s, and I think this really starts to happen when you do approach your 40s, where you're like, oh no, now I am staring down the back half of life. And I mean, how many more years, like 20, 30, like, I don't know if you're going to still be doing this like the last 5 to 10 years of your life, especially if you're like 90 to 100 or 80 to 90. Like, are you still going to do this? Are you still going to be doing anything? And so the number of years that you have available is limited. And I mean, we might all die tomorrow. Who knows? But I think that's like a really scary thing to think about. Like, the 42 things that I've thought about doing that I haven't actually let myself just go out and build and do and at least give it a try. And if it fails, whatever, or if it leads me down a different path, whatever. But I think so many of us get to the end and we realize that we're dying with so many gifts inside of us, or ideas, or visions, or dreams that we never ever pursued, which I think is like the saddest thing to think about. And I think it's probably one of the saddest things about life. And we make up all these stories about why we're not worthy of pursuing it, or why we can't do it, or what if I fail, or what if I get rejected, or what if I get abandoned, or what if I lose all my money, or what if I build it and then it crumbles and I lose it all and I have to build it again, or what if I do it and it's a waste of time. But like, what's the point of living if we're not pursuing the things that I think God is putting inside of our hearts to create, to be, to do, to lead, to facilitate, to create and grow? And then we just sort of fall into status quo, and we fall into autopilot, and we fall into default mode. And even though we sit here and say we don't like default mode, we want it to change, we're not doing anything about it.
Mhm.
And I just want to encourage people and like light a fire under people, whatever that thing is. It's been, and you know what it is if you're listening to this. I know it, some of the ideas I have that I really want to pursue that I'm kind of teetering on out of fear, or like, really, me? Like me? I could do that? Well, you're never going to know until you actually get out there and do it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, so be it. But at least you know. So I want to encourage people, whatever that one thing is that you've been thinking about for a while or lately, and you've come up with a lot of reasons why, not you, not now, go go take the first action step, whatever that action step is, and get the ball rolling.
I absolutely love that advice. And I'm splicing together a piece of what you said. Unleash. You use that word. Unleash the dream. And I'm a little bit older than you, Megan, and I can tell you, at 56, God's still putting new dreams on my heart
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And what you said about, the back half, if you will, like, I mean, we don't know how much time we have left, but let's just say that we're going to live to be the average age is whatever it is, 78, 80 years old. I'm not that far away from the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And I was sharing with somebody today, like, if God put something in your heart, now that's a whole nother conversation. Did he put it there? Did you put it there? But let's just assume
Mm-hmm.
he put it there. He wants it more than you do.
Mm-hmm.
What we do, we shrink back for all the reasons you said. And, there's imposter syndrome, fear of failure, limited thinking. Sometimes we don't talk about this one nearly enough. Fear of success
Yeah.
and all that brings, because then there's more responsibility that comes with that too. But anyway, I love that response. I just want to say, Megan, thank you for sharing your experiences, your wisdom. Most importantly, thank you for sharing your warmth and your kindness with us. It came shining through. It's been great having you as our guest, and so appreciate you sharing your stories and your business acronym with us today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
You're very, very welcome. Guys, life is a roller coaster. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. because your story's not over yet. If you're watching this, there's a reason. And I want to encourage you to keep striving. Don't give up. The worst thing that can happen is that you live with regret and you're on your deathbed and you didn't pursue all those dreams that you wanted to pursue. Go for it. Ignite a fire, like Megan said. Go for it. I appreciate each one of you. Till the next time, stay blessed.